So I always wanted to ask you this. I knew you were a state trooper. You know I'm a car guy.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a car guy. So if I was in your state and I was driving, a pretty cool car, and let's say I was doing, I don't know, 150 miles an hour, and and let's say I didn't hear my radar detector and it went off, and you got me doing 150, and you pulled me over. I mean, what would you say? You didn't know me. What would you do?
Well, how fast is the car capable of?
Oh, probably 220.
Yeah.
Probably 220.
There's a chance that I'd say, I just walk up and just look at you, and that's it. That's all you got? Type of thing. I mean, if you're going to go 150, why not go 200?
Why go 200? Yeah. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's 2 words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Entrepreneurs in Finance, where we explore the daily lives of CCTG graduates and lenders. And this interview, I'm very, very excited about to interview Ben Looney of Growth Commercial Capital. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Kris, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? How are you?
Doing well. Busy.
Doing well? Yeah. And I will let everybody know, because I'm very transparent. We did do this interview, and my producer, Joe, screwed up on the recording. So
I knew it was coming.
I apologize. So this is the second round, but we had such a great interview. Hopefully we capture it on this. So I appreciate your time, Ben.
Absolutely. I appreciate being on it.
All right. Well, I'm very excited to interview you just because you have such a unique background coming into this. People always say, gee, I need to have a finance background. I need to have I need to have an MBA. I need to have all this stuff. But you didn't have that. And so I guess the best way, and you have probably the most interesting background of people that I've interviewed thus so far. So welcome. And let me just dive into the first question. I mean, so tell everybody, when did you come through CCTG?
I went through the class January of 2018.
January 2018. Okay. And what package did you purchase?
I went with Platinum.
You went with the Platinum package. And, tell everybody kind of where you're from too, because you're not from like a, million+ population city or state, I should say, right?
Well, I mean, Oregon's got it's a pretty big state. So I think our total population is around 4 million, but yeah, we don't have, a giant metroplex. We're one of the smaller cities. I'm up in the Portland area. I don't live in Portland.
Yeah.
I would never live in Portland, but I do live in a suburb here, and we've got a pretty hot real estate market, which is a good thing for this business, and been able to crack into that and help a lot of real estate investors get into that, and then just there's a ton of small business. There's a lot of startups around here, and we get to work with a lot of them. Fortunately, made some good connections.
Yeah. And listen, I think, the reason why I have you on here is because I think you define what I'd call a very successful graduate in this business. And I'll get to that in a second, but let me just dive into your background, if you don't mind, because it is unique. It is interesting. And I have a lot of respect for what you did in your previous career. So you were a police officer, correct?
I was a state trooper.
You were a state trooper, and you also were a detective, right? I think you kind of went through different realms in that world, right?
Yep. Yeah, I was on our tactical team, and then I ended my career as a detective.
Okay, so anything I say can be used against me, I guess, in this interview, right?
Potentially. Yeah.
So tell me about that transformation. I mean, what were some things? I mean, obviously you loved law enforcement, and you chose that career path, but How did you go from law enforcement to now wanting to own a finance company? Tell me about that thought process and transition.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a long story, but as I was a trooper, I had started a couple small businesses. I owned a brewery, and I ended up selling my stake out of that once I transferred from the Coos Bay area up to Portland. And while I was up in Portland, I had started a commercial pressure washing business with the end goal to kind of transform that business into a hazardous waste cleanup business. And business was going well, and I just wasn't enjoying the job as a trooper up here. And my partner in my pressure washing business wanted out, so I bought him out and quit my job, and things were going well. But literally 2 weeks after quitting with the state police, I started having some pains in my side and went and got checked out. And turns out I have an aggressive form of Crohn's disease. At least that's what the doctors say. And they told me I needed to have surgery and I'd be out, just essentially on bed rest for a couple months. And that was going to hinder the business that I had. Fortunately, I had several months before the surgery. So I started game planning and looking at businesses for sale. And I think I was on like bizbuysell.com or something like that. And I saw an ad for CCTG and started, I went to the website, and there's just copious amount of information to review. And then I just did a little bit of background on the company and the owners and yeah, of course I did. So I just, I couldn't find anything negative or anything that of substance that was negative. And so I made the jump. I mean, I had zero background in finance. Didn't really understand much of it at all. I thought I had a little bit of a grasp on real estate and lending with real estate, but turns out I didn't. So yeah, we did it.
Here you are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So did you have any, I mean, I think, well, it sounds like you were an entrepreneur before you came here, right? Because you had opened and started other businesses while you were a trooper.
Yeah. But those are I kind of say I really had no business owning a business when I first started those businesses, because right. I really, just the mindset I had, I was kind of more or less just owning a job. And this, this class, who it's put me around, and then seeking mentors outside of this group, it kind of helped shift things and understand business a little bit better, which has helped significantly, obviously.
Sure. Do you think any personality traits from being a trooper / detective translates over into this business at all? Yes
and no. I think some of the same traits that help kind of can hinder. As a police officer, you're a problem solver, you're a solution seeker. Every problem you encounter, you have to have a solution. You have to find a solution.
Right.
And in finance, when I first started and I was out, trying to drum up business, I was trying to make every single deal happen. And, I wouldn't quit on it. And there's just some times where you just have to step back and say, listen, you're not eligible for financing right now, but this is what you can do to get there, instead of wasting your time and spinning your wheels.
You were beating a lot of dead horses.
Oh man.
Yeah.
A lot.
And that's the nature of a police officer, right? I mean, you want to help people and you want to, like you said, find a solution, but you got caught up in a problem that I think a lot of new grads get caught up on because they're so excited. They want to, especially they want to start earning revenue, is they beat a dead horse, even despite what we tell them. If they come to us and say, look, we don't recommend you do this. Here's how they can do it. But as of right now, it's not a deal. And some people just don't listen to us. But all right, so you got caught up in that. I can.
Yeah.
So you obviously you did your due diligence on CCTG. You went to CCTG. Explain that first day. I mean, being that
Yeah.
I understand you probably had some skepticism, and you invested a lot of money. You were a platinum graduate. And so what was that first day like when you arrived? Were you like, who the hell are these guys? These guys, I'm going to uncover something. Like, what was your mindset going into it?
Yeah, no, I wasn't too concerned about that. I was more or less like I was talking with a lot of people in the class, and a lot of them had finance backgrounds, whether they were bankers or owned, some successful businesses, and maybe had times where they were a banker or a CPA, and there were several CPAs, and a lot of education, a lot of educated folks with with fancy degrees
MBAs, yeah.
that I didn't have,
Right.
and
So
I was like,
I don't have that either. So
right, yeah, I mean, it took me 5 years to get a 2-year degree, so and yeah, so it was just kind of like, all right, and I better sharpen my pencil and get ready to take some notes. And I remember as class was progressing, there was some of the questions that people were asking, like, I didn't even understand the question. I didn't understand what they meant. And I was just like, man. So I'm in my hotel room at night, just like Googling these terms and phrases and I still didn't understand it, and it's just, but it comes.
Yeah, no, that definitely does come. So what happened? You went through class. You're probably, obviously overwhelmed. Everybody is. Tell me about the first couple of months when you left class. I mean, what were you doing? What was your game plan?
Yeah, well, I kind of went into it knowing that, my first few months was going to be a lot of learning, but I didn't waste a lot of time just sitting at the house trying to figure things out. I said, I kind of told myself the best way to learn is to just go do it and just know and accept the fact that you're going to fail, and you just got to learn from those failures. And I failed. I mean, failed in the sense that, like I mentioned, we chased a bunch of dead deals that were nothing from the start.
Right.
And but I kept at it, and I called John and I called Mac a lot, and I'm pretty sure I emailed you a few times, and I just knew, or I felt like after leaving the class, I said, just trust the process. You guys give us every tool we need. And then once we're out there, if we're not the ones putting those tools to use, then, we can't expect success. So, I mean, I've got an office downtown in Oregon City. And one of the things I did is I found out who owns the building, and I called him up and said, hey, let's, can I take you to coffee or lunch or dinner or something? And he agreed. And he was actually he referred me one of the first deals I ever got funded.
Wow.
And he's referred several clients since then. But yeah, I mean, it just made sure people knew what I was doing and what I did. And it's finance, so it's not the most exciting thing. I mean, I could talk about it all day. I know you could too, but most people, they don't, it's not that exciting to them.
I know. So, it's certainly not as excited of the career that you had before in your previous life.
Right. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So, and you bring up a good point, because I think a lot of people, when they look at, coming into this, even when they get out, I see it all the time. Some grads, they'll obsess over, their home. They get home and like their website's up, but they don't want to make it live yet because they're obsessing over like an image, or like, I want this image, and I want, and like our staff's like, look, having one image over another is not going to make or break your business. Like, go out and just start doing things. Leave it up to us, and
yeah,
and it sounds like you did that. I mean, and also I could say in anything you do in this business, the more practice you get, and sometimes you're going to fail on a client in your first couple of clients, but that's okay. You just get better at the more opportunities you see.
Right.
And so I love how that's your mindset. You walked away and said, look, I don't know. I'm not really too confident in this, but I'm just going to dive right in. And if I fail at some things, I fail, but at least I dove right in, and I'll learn and adapt really quickly. I think that's a great thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, you got to put in the work. I mean, it's not going to come to you, and it's just like any business. And, you look at, I'm kind of a sports guy. So you look at the super successful athletes, and those guys, sure, they're extremely talented, but they work so hard, and they work, their off season, their days are just, maxed out working on their game. And a lot of them, that's why you see a lot of the successful ones become successful entrepreneurs after sports. And, Kobe Bryant's a good example, and Michael Jordan, obviously, and several others, but you got to put in the work. It's not going to come to you. And you just got to know that when you put in the work and you're dealing with business, sometimes it fails. And so you just shift.
You shift and adapt. Yeah. We had actually 2 months ago, we had Orlando Pace, Hall of Famer for the Rams, come through class. NFL Hall of Famer. Yeah. Orlando Pace.
Big guy.
Yeah. Well, he's a big guy, but he, he now owns a bunch of successful businesses, and he wanted something in this realm because, I asked him, I go, Orlando, why did you choose us? He goes, man, because every time I turn around, people need money. And, he did a search, he found us. And so, we're really cool to have him part of our family now. But to support your fact that the great ones have that mindset, they're just out there practicing, grinding. They're not sitting by a pool, contrary to popular a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you chose the platinum package. Obviously that comes with leads. Throughout that process, did that help you out at all, being that you're in a population, number one, to see opportunities, but to see maybe opportunities outside of your population?
Yeah, absolutely. And, and I knew that there was going to be some aspect of this business where I was going to be in the office kind of studying and not putting as much time as I would as I wanted, or would eventually be out doing business development. So those leads really helped. And then of course, it's just another stream to fill your pipeline. So you're going to go out and make those connections and drum up deals as well, but having that other stream helps. And then I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like when I got back from class, and how long it would take for me to, start figuring things out. So I wanted as much help as I could get. And, if you don't have a presence on the internet nowadays, then, good luck. And this is a particular industry, in my opinion, where having that presence is important, and you never know who's going to call. You never know who's going to click that link and get in touch with you.
Right. And in turn, you saw obviously opportunities outside of your market. Anywhere really, for that matter. So, and now, so you've been doing this for a couple of years now, right? 2 years, 2.5 years, going on almost 3 years. What do you think some of your biggest, or we talked about one of your failures, you kind of beat a dead horse, but looking back, if you were to have to tell somebody looking into this interview, thinking about, gee, should I jump in or not? What would be, like, I guess, your best advice to somebody, if you could say, looking back, getting into this, that you would have done differently, possibly, that now?
I'm pretty happy with the path that I took. Sure, not getting or chasing dead deals, but I learned so much going through that process. And it wasn't necessarily that I did anything wrong, and that's why they didn't get funding. It was more or less they just weren't a fundable client at that time. They had to fix a lot of things. So I actually get a lot of phone calls from people who are interested in CCTG, and I tell them, I said, listen, if you trust the system and you honestly put in the work and utilize the tools that are given, you'll succeed. And it's a pretty cool business, because if you would just want to go out and make $50,000 to $70,000 a year, you can do that, or you can. The sky's the limit. And so you know, utilizing the tools, but just getting out there immediately and just doing it. You're not going to know everything about it, and don't expect to. And if you just sit there and try to analyze, you're not going to do anything.
Tell me about your first deal. Everybody remembers their first deal. It's like their first girlfriend, right? Or the first person you kissed when you were a kid. Tell me about your first deal. How'd it come about, and you closed it? What'd you make on it? I'm sure you know that. I mean,
yeah. So it was it came through a pay-per-click lead.
One of our leads.
And it was a gentleman down in Louisiana. He's he's 82 years old.
Wow.
He's a contractor for the Department of Defense. He makes brackets and stuff like that for seats and valves for submarines, and he's been doing it for 51 years.
Wow.
And I mean, I just love talking to the guy, just hearing all of his stories.
And that's another point. You meet interesting people in this business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's awesome. And he was, I mean, he enjoyed chatting too about business, and you know, he owns a bunch of real estate. Well, he was looking to purchase the building that he was in, and it was a bit of a challenge because, you know, he's 81 or 82, and he's constantly traveling, and, you know, kind of ish retired. So getting the right documents from him at times was challenging, and it took a while. Took a couple term sheets, but we finally got it done. I mean, it was a small deal. I think it was like $450,000 or something like that. Yep. And I made a couple points on it, and but yeah, I was pumped. But it took from I guess I you know, after taking the class, I probably really got out there, started March. I think it funded in August. So that was my first deal. It took me a while. And fortunately, you know, I had some money saved up, or actually I think we did close it in July, but it took me a while. Yeah, I mean, it was exciting. And then that kind of seemed to cascade deals from there. Like several started closing and started figuring it out, and still made mistakes.
Yeah, no, of course. And it surprised me that an 84 you said he was?
81 or 2, something like that.
Actually went to the internet to find money. I mean, that's impressive, to say the least.
Yeah, well, one time I called him, I said, hey, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm waiting to pick up my new car. So, what do you get? And he said, oh, I got a Porsche 911.
Oh, wow.
And I said, what model? And he said, I think it was a 4S or something like that. And I said, have you had a Porsche before? He's like, several. He goes, and I always buy them used. I always buy them like 10 years older. And he goes, and then I just drive the shit out of them. Yeah. And he's like, I just, if I crash it, and that's get a new one.
Must have bonded with that. I know you're a car guy. We're both cars.
Yeah.
But yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
So.
What's the, if you don't mind saying, what's the largest deal you did, or largest commission that you ever pulled
down? Well, I've got 12 million, I think, so far. And, but I wish you could ask me this in about a month and a half, because the pipeline's insane right now. But yeah, I made a point on that. And then, but yeah, we've got some good stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I don't want to jinx it. So
no. Yeah, me neither.
You never count your, you don't count your commissions till they're in the bank.
That is so true.
Cool.
Yeah.
Easy
to do though.
It is easy to do. Obviously, we're only human, but
yeah.
Well, that's you know, that's awesome, and you know, I commend you, you know, for working hard at this. You're been a great example of, you know, the people we like to produce here, and you obviously work the model. I'm going to go back into your background again. Not that what you do now is not interesting. It is interesting, but
sure.
Just because, you know, we don't have too many people with your background that come through here. But what's your, you know, what's your most interesting pullover, I should say, as state trooper? I mean, is there one that sticks out in your mind that's just like wacky?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the problem. There's been so many. I don't know if any are crazier than the others that really stand out, but and I'm sure I'll think of something after the fact. But I mean, but bizarre things. I mean, it's just from gross to just weird to nudity to, I mean, and it's lots and lots and lots and lots of drugs. And that was kind of my focus when I was on patrol, is to try to interdict drug traffickers. And it's it was pretty challenging, and fortunately I got to go to some really high quality training for interview techniques and just reading humans. And it was a challenge, and it's something you have to go out and really work hard at. And it was fun, and it was quite rewarding. And you never know what you might be interdicting, because if someone is involved in some sort of crime and they have a conscience, they are going to give off indicators or clues. And reading that and trying to figure out, well, okay, what are they involved in?
Right.
Whether it's, I mean, I stopped a van one time that they were trafficking pirated CDs. And it's just strange.
Yeah.
Or but we've done. I mean, when I was a detective, it was we're dealing with homicides and having to go to the prisons and investigate assaults and all that type of stuff. And I mean, I had a guy walk into a grocery store in the middle of the day holding his mom's head.
Yeah, that's I remember. I mean,
that's
sorry. Yeah, that probably takes the cake. I mean,
yeah.
No,
I mean, it's sick.
Yeah. You don't ever forget that, no matter how involved you are with that case. But wow.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, look on your worst day of CCTG, it doesn't even come close to that, and that would probably be a bad day.
Yeah, it would be a bad day.
Like what?
I hope I don't have to deal with that doing this.
No. So I always wanted to ask you this. I knew you were a state trooper. I'm a car guy.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a car guy. So if I was in your state and I was driving, a pretty cool car, and let's say I was doing, I don't know, 150 miles an hour, and let's say I didn't hear my radar detector and it went off, and you got me doing 150, and you pulled me over. I mean, what would you say? You didn't know me. What would you do?
Well, how fast is the car capable of?
Oh, probably 220.
Yeah.
Probably 220.
There's a chance that I'd say, I just walk up and just look at you, but that's it. That's all you got? Everything? I mean, if you're going to go 150, why not go 200?
Why go 200? Yeah. Well, yeah, only in my dreams, I guess. I wish every law enforcement officer had that attitude. Although I've had a couple that not exactly that, but I've had sometimes do rallies and people pulled over, and I had a few that pulled over and they like really loved the car, and
sure.
I was doing way over the limit, but they just pulled me over and they said, "Look, man, I get it. Like, just keep it. But like, I just want to ask you questions about the car," which is totally awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's some Ferraris and Lamborghinis around here, but it's not. It's certainly not Southern California or anywhere on the East Coast. But I pulled out onto I-5 one day, and I see a bright red Enzo, and
wow.
I said, I got behind it. I'm just like, come on, do something. just break the law. I want to pull you over and look at this car. He didn't.
You don't see those, yeah.
No, and he drove like a total Nancy. It was unfortunate. It was kind of embarrassing.
Yeah. Those cars are meant to be driven, man.
Yeah.
Not good if you don't drive them. I hate that. I absolutely hate
right.
it.
Yeah. Why buy it and collect it? I mean,
Yeah, I know. I mean, those cars are meant to open up. So you actually saw the car in the distance, and you purposely just went up to it and wanted to see what to do, right?
Yeah. But I can't remember what dealership. There's a dealership close by that has a few Ferraris. It must have been that, but
yeah.
Yeah,
and Enzo's a unicorn. That's rare to see.
Yeah.
Sure. So now it comes time to, if you don't mind, let me ask you just a couple of questions. I'm going to hit you with some law questions, and let's see how you respond to them. And then you could ask the same of me. No hold bars, whatever you want to ask. But so if you weren't doing this, let's say you retired from the police force and you never found CCTG, what do you think you'd be doing? Or what would you like to do? Let's reframe it. Like, if you could do your dream job, like anything, what would it be?
Oh, probably some sort of machine or tooling shop and manufacture either firearms or firearm parts. Just kind of it's an industry and sport that I enjoy, and it would be, I think it'd be fun. A lot of obviously like-minded folks in that industry, and when I say like-minded, lots of past law enforcement and military and stuff like that.
Yeah. So what's like your go-to gun? If the shit hit the fan in the world and you could only have one gun, what would it be? The shit hit the fan. Like the world started saying, like, and you only had to take one, what would it be?
Probably just an AR because of the ammo that's available.
Correct answer.
Yeah. And it's a lot of people, they buy so many different types of guns and different calibers, and I buy for common parts and common ammunition. What's just in case that were to happen. And I mean,
I'm available.
Yeah, I'm certainly not a prepper or anything like that, but yeah, if end of times, I mean, there's a lot of 5.56, 2.23 ammo out there. So
yeah, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's one thing that people normally wouldn't think about you if they didn't know you that maybe you're into, or kind of a quirky fact about you? Anything?
I don't know. I mean, it's nothing that exciting. I mean, I think it wouldn't surprise people so much, but I just kind of recently started developing real estate and like residential subdivisions. And I don't know if I'll continue doing that, but that's something.
It's growing, though. I mean, a lot of people, I don't know how it is out there, but I know up here, we're in upstate New York, in Albany.
Sure.
A lot of people want to get out of the city with what's going on, and they're buying properties way overpriced, double than what they're asking in some cases. Do you find that in your area, even though you're in a more of a spread out area?
Yeah, well, I mean, Portland's still growing so much, and there is such a shortage of homes. And I've got a few friends who are real estate brokers, and I mean, they list a house and they've got 5 or 6 offers within 4 or 5 hours. Okay. And a lot of the big national builders are have been here or are really starting to break in, and they're scooping stuff up. So yeah, there certainly is a market for that. I just think, and I got into the residential side initially as an investor, and then kind of had to or just moved forward to develop the lots, and I'll sell them to a national builder. But I think if I continued my development, it'd be in commercial real estate.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And I got to imagine some of the education you got in finance, and now your experience out in the field kind of helps you, because a lot of developers, you're not successful unless you get the financing. I mean, that's a big part. Now that you already know the financing, I got to imagine that's a little bit more clearer picture into the endeavor that you're going to go into as a.
Yeah, absolutely. And just I mean, it's made so many connections with developers or folks looking for partners, and who they have the experience. They're just a little extended at the time, and so there's opportunities for that. And I mean, I certainly I'm not looking for those opportunities. It's just, but if one presents itself, which it kind of seems to quite a bit, I'll take a look at it.
Cool. Last question for you. If if you could meet one person living or deceased, spend about an hour with them, who would it be and why?
Bill Bowerman. He's the former head track and field coach and cross country coach, and one of the founders of Nike. He's deceased now, but just his experience in the military, and then just the impact that he made in exercise in general, and running, and then the caliber of athletes that he produced, and how he molded people. And he was, I don't know, he just had a manner about him, and the way he could teach and coach, and it was quite impressive. And I feel like he's got you could learn a lot from the guy.
Yeah, and I got to imagine he became, very, very wealthy.
Oh yeah,
co-founder.
Yeah.
Who's the other guy? Who's the other guy in Nike? I didn't realize there was two people.
Yeah, Phil Knight.
Phil Knight. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where Phil was a athlete for Bill Bowerman.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. All right. Well, now comes the time to really ask me anything. If there's anything you're wondering about, or
Sure.
anything you wanted to ask me, personal or business, feel free.
Yeah. So, well, I would say you're highly successful, but to get where you're at, we've all experienced failures or setbacks. What's one of yours that stands out, and what do you learn, and what do you do to shift?
What did I do to shift? Yeah, there's been many over the course of, I'd say, 20 years. I would say, when a big proponent, and that I live by, and also, as as I teach, is diversity, right? You have to be diversified. You never want to be pigeonholed into one industry. And, I think, facing setbacks has caused me to reinforce that principle just in my own business life. Hence why we have a couple of companies here. But, one that really sticks out is, like in 2008, when, we were doing a lot of real estate loans, and real estate took a big hit after the crash of '08. And even though we were diversified then, it really opened up my eyes of what we had to do is really take a hit on real estate, and we had to morph over into some other products that there was a need. And for me, that was kind of the first time in my career where I really had to do that, right? Because real estate wasn't an option after '08. I'm talking about commercial real estate. Right. And so that really forced me to open up my eyes to asset-based lending, and the world of, and kind of the world of merchant cash advances evolved after '08. It kind of gave birth after '08. And I really kind of shifted marketing focus and shifted marketing dollars and energy into, although I knew the products already, I didn't really pay attention to them, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I really started to dive down that path and further try to insulate myself from any economic fluctuation, because I realized that in a down economy, products like real estate could take a hit, at least what we were financing, and then going into some other products that really the demand explodes in a good way. And shortly after 2008, I co-founded a factoring company. And, and that's when, because factoring was a huge, huge need back then. So I think, so you learn from a failure, right? Everybody was on real estate, and I think the important thing is to accept that failure and take the lump, as they say, but then don't sit there and cry about it. Sit there, have an action plan, and do something else to try to mitigate that risk. I think for a lot of our graduates, that happened for the first time with COVID, because we started in '09, late '09, CCTG. And ever since then, it's been kind of a growing economy, and then boom, COVID hits. And for the first time, our graduates are dealt with a blow, and some had a little bit of trouble pivoting, and some actually pivoted really, really well and gravitated towards the PPP loans, some of the other products that had a demand. So, Yeah.
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 COVID was a challenge.
COVID was a challenge. Yeah. And I think
it still is.
It is for some aspects. Yeah. I think it's a wake up call to, to kind of force you to kind of, look at other products. I mean, we had a lot of grads that were doing real estate. And then when the secondary market kind of slowed down during COVID, they're like, what do I do now? And some of them had to go into things like, asset-based lending or, PPP loans.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. What's one of your pet peeves?
Being on time. Yeah. Being on time. I, growing up, I had a military father, and he was a Marine, and he was very, very, time was instilled. You got to be on time. So when people aren't on time, and that's like a real big pet peeve with me.
Understandable.
And I'm sure maybe you too. I mean, being a police officer.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've noticed, I mean, once your business starts rolling and you're successful, it's there's no time to relax if you want it to continue and you want it to grow. And it's if you're friends with a business owner and you call them or call him or her or text them and you don't get a response for a day or two, it's not because they're ignoring you. It's because they're just busy and they have to prioritize. And I didn't really understand that until this business started taking off. And it's just, you just have to set some things aside while you're grinding. And time management and other people screwing with your time management is frustrating.
Yeah, I know. And I wish more people would get that. I know people in my life, they text me sometimes, personal friends, and I get back to them for like 2 weeks, or not 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days. And some of them are like, hey man, what's going on? Did I do something? Kind of busy. Sorry, juggling family at that too.
Right. I know you've told me this before, but I think it's pretty interesting. How and why did you get into finance?
That's a good question. I mean, so how and why, as you know, I dropped out of, the short version is I dropped out of college and didn't know what I wanted to do. And eventually I went to go work for a bank that was hiring, and as equipment business development officer, equipment finance business development officer. And you didn't need a college degree. And I loved what I did. I grasped onto it and built up a little portfolio of business. And then the bank decided to sell. And when the bank decided to sell, I was all of a sudden faced without a job, didn't have a college degree. But I knew there was one broker that used to send me business when I worked at the bank. And I was only in it for, I was at the bank for maybe 3 years. That's it. And I remember the checks that the bank used to send the broker, but he was my source of, one of my source of leads. And I said, holy shit, man, this guy's making more money than I am. And that always worked out. And so when the bank decided to get out of equipment financing, and I was all of a sudden suddenly faced with, what am I going to do? I had student loans from, the school that I never graduated from. And I said, you know what, I'm going to call that guy up. And I called him up and we went to lunch here in Albany. And it was, to this day, I have the receipt saved at home. It is the most important lunch I ever went to. Actually, I have it framed, the receipt. And I picked his brain for 4 hours. And I just wanted to know everything that he did. What did you do? And he told me, I broker equipment financing transactions. Mm-hmm. And he was nice enough to give me names of a couple of national banks that, I could start a relationship with, since I had experience in that realm. And then that gave birth to, my brokerage. And I started. And, the other aspect that I loved, even when I was at the bank, but then when I started my own brokerage and diversified eventually, is, I like helping people. At the end, I think it's satisfying. There's certainly a hell of a lot of careers you can make a ton of money at. But you got to look back at yourself and say, was that gratifying? Are you doing good? Are you actually, and this field I love because you're helping people. You can make good
Yep.
money, but you're helping people. That's
Yeah.
what into it.
Yeah. And I mean, especially with small businesses, you get a lot of small business owners that are, whether they're, I mean, they could be new or they could be very experienced, and they just, they're ready to get to that next step, but they just don't know how to. And you get to help educate them and set them up to expand. And obviously you're helping them, but you're helping their employees, and maybe they're hiring new people, and the impacts you can make. And really, it could be a long-term impact, because
Sure.
you could be providing education, obviously providing the funding. Yeah, it is satisfying. It's very rewarding.
You ever sit back and just take some time at the end of the night and like think about the people that you've helped, and then think about maybe, gee, without you, maybe they couldn't hire a couple of employees, and if you start thinking about it that way, it's really mind-boggling. I think,
Yeah,
when you
I
say,
agree.
I got this, whatever, this loan for this business, and because of that, maybe they hired 5 people or 10 people, or they expanded, which allowed them to do this and that, the other thing. And the common denominator was you, because you were
Right.
connecting them with capital. If you ever think about that, I mean,
Yeah. And just, it's, I always try to relate with the business owners, and I'm never trying to sell anything or really like cram down their throat. I'm not that salesman. I don't want them to have that vibe ever. And a lot of times you'll get these people that are, hey, someone referred me to you, and you can tell they're guarded, and you say, hey, listen, I'm a business owner too. I get it. I mean, we're not in the same industry, but we're talking business owner to business owner here.
right.
And, I work with business owners in, obviously, small business and middle market businesses. And here's what I've seen successfully. Here's what I've done personally. How could this benefit you and
Right.
get you to where you want to be? And it's, I mean, and I'm no business expert by any means, but just the experiences I've had and being able to relate, it's fun. I mean, I've got clients that I've never met face to face, but we'll call each other and just chat now as friends.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and obviously, I mean, there's been some plans that, yeah, we're going to meet up one of these days, but COVID kind of jacked that up.
But so then, do you find that as a tool? Is that kind of your strategy to kind of disarm people and make them, and build that bridge from their business to your business, and just be straight with them and say, hey, like, I get where you're coming from, because I'm a business owner too. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and it boils down to time management again. If
right.
I'm spending all my time trying to break through that armor and prove myself to these folks, in a salesy type way, it's a waste of my time, and I don't have time to waste my time, and I don't have time to waste their time. So, you always get a few folks that are pretty rigid and difficult, and it just kind of gets to a point where I say, listen, do you need help or not? Because I'm on your side. I'm going to help you, and I'm going to give you opinions based on my experience, and I'll give you reasons and explanations to that, why I'm suggesting that you do this.
Right.
And sometimes you just got to walk away from folks, because it's gonna take too much time, and they're just not willing to grasp it. And a lot of times they come back to you.
Yeah.
I've found.
Right. Well, because they're used to dealing with like the car salesman.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Of the people that are just kind of wham bam, thank you, man type attitudes. Right.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Listen, Ben, it's been fun. It's been intriguing. We talked about people's heads getting cut off. We talked about
naturally, it's finance.
Getting pulled over and letting me go if I did 150. We talked about your failures, your success. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for this second go around. And hopefully, as you know, our conference is, it's virtual this year. And, but I would like to, share a drink with you, but next year or maybe sooner.
Absolutely.
Who knows?
Yeah. No, thanks for having me.
All right, man. Well, that's it for this episode in Entrepreneurs of Finance. Tune in, subscribe to our YouTube channel where we're going to have plenty more interviews coming out of graduates and lenders. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. You know, people always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's 2 words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business.